some questions that commonly come up and people have asked about. Some coming from the perspective of someone with an alcohol or drug issue, and others questions from family members of people who have a loved one or maybe a friend challenged by substance abuse. So let me first go with one of the more common questions and that had been submitted recently was, hey, I feel like I'm maybe drinking too much. I'm not interested in quitting. I'm not ready yet. But all I seem to hear is people, saying, well, asking me if I'm an alcoholic or not. So first of all, I love the fact that somebody even said, use that phrase, because I like to ask people what they mean by the word alcoholic. It's not a clinical term. It's just common in our vocabulary. And oftentimes it's interesting that when people talk about someone being an alcoholic, what they really mean is, if you ask them, they'll say, it's kind of like that person drinking first thing out of the morning, probably vodka out of a brown paper bag, usually homeless, and they'll say, well, that's not me. I'm not that kind of a person, so I'm not an alcoholic. And so I think it's important to remember that it doesn't matter the term that you use, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. That those kinds of labels can really be confusing, shaming, and really unhelpful for a lot of people. And so instead, it's really more about, well, is alcohol, your relationship with alcohol, causing a particular problem in your life? And if that's the case, then what you want to do is take a look at that and say, all right, well, how can I change that relationship so that I have a better life, a better version of what I want to be? And so that could get prompted by a lot of different things. It might be that there's a particular relationship challenge that's going on at the time, where your partner has asked you to take a look at the amount of alcohol you are consuming, or maybe you just realize it yourself that you're having hangovers, brain fog, know that you're really not as productive at work, or that you feel bad about coming home every night and feeling like you have to have a drink in order to kind of make it through the evening or to get to sleep. And so here's where you can just kind of take a step back, be kind to yourself, and just say, all right, what do I need? How might my life be better if I drank a little less? And start there. It doesn't have to be an all or none proposition. So many people are able to actually begin with what we would call harm reduction. Just like what it sounds like. We're reducing the amount of harm that you get by cutting back. And more people, once they do that, and they actually start to begin to notice that life tends to be better, that they are more creative, productive, have more energy, and thus able to do so many more things, that people just continue on that path on their own. So it's really a great way to kind of meet people where they are. And it doesn't matter whether it's alcohol or some other substance, but engaging people in a way that tells them that you're listening. And then from there, you help them figure out exactly how you go about to cut down. And so that might involve, for alcohol, it might involve using particular medications. For opiates, that would be the same thing. So not all drugs have not all substances have a particular drug that's as easy to do that with. Marijuana, there's no particular drug that's going to be helpful there. And again, the drugs aren't a panacea, but they can help decrease the amount of cravings that somebody has, make the usage much less pleasant, and so that helps to cut things down. So if you have somebody in your life, or if it's you, that feels like the amount of alcohol, say, they are consuming is more than what would be helpful, I talk to people about how to cut back. And so if you're a family member, oftentimes family members kind of see all the drama and all the negative stuff that goes on because of the alcohol consumption and or whatever other drug that might be that's going on. And so in every situation, of course, it is unique. And one size does not fit all. But it's helpful from a family member's perspective to first stop and ask, okay, why is my loved one drinking or using a substance? There's a really good reason. If you ask them, they may tell you, well, helps to decrease my anxiety, or it helps me to feel accepted, where I have always felt kind of less than, not good enough. But when I drink or I smoke weed or take some other kind of drug, now I'm accepted by these people, and they don't criticize me, judge me, or shame me. And you may not realize even that you might be doing that, but people who have a inner sense of not feeling good enough have a radar, are hyper aware of criticism and judgment. So really important to recognize that we all have a filter through which we see the world. And how that filter is shaped is by our past experiences, values, judgments, beliefs, maybe what our needs are in that very moment. And so I like to say that every piece of data has to go through that filter to that person's brain, and the response, verbal or nonverbal, has got to go back out through that filter and engage with the world. And so kind of where treatment helps is to change the filter, change the way somebody sees the world. But that's also important for family members, because family members who have kind of put up with all sorts of disruptions, frustrations, irritations, and it helps for them to take a step back and look at their filter that has been shaped by the experiences of their loved ones in their own lives. So from that point of view, now we've got two people. One is the person who might be drinking or using a substance. They're working on changing the way they interact with the world. And then the family member wants to do the same thing. And it is with both people, or maybe there's more than just two, but everybody kind of working together, that is where the magic occurs. So where family members are trying to address someone who has a significant problem with a substance, the idea is like, how do I create the scaffolding that will allow us to build a healthier relationship? So you have to start from the beginning. And the idea is that the beginning is just to start with, how do I just make a relationship better? Because that relationship is probably in pretty bad shape. And the fact is that the relationship with the substance is oftentimes way more important. And so before you ask somebody to give up that relationship, think about breaking up with the person you love more than anyone in the world. Divorcing your spouse, say, immediately. Well, who would do that? So it's kind of what you're asking when you tell a person who is using a substance, I want you to stop cold turkey and to be done. It takes that piece of understanding so that you are able to come to them in a way that says, hey, I get it. This alcohol that you're using or this drug that you're using, it does something for you. And you begin to discuss that and have a conversation where you're listening. Because oftentimes the person who's using does not feel like anyone's listening to them. They don't feel heard. And so this is where the power, the change can happen, is when you begin to not detach with love, engage with love. Because when and this is a major difference that I have with Al-Anon when it comes to trying to help somebody who has a drug addiction, is that if you disengage from that person, it's going to make them feel more alone, more ashamed, more judged. And the simple solution to all that is more substance use. And so you want to get away from that by learning how to talk in a way where you both get heard. And so I have some videos on my website. One is talking about the SURF technique, SURF, which is a really great way to begin a conversation. Another really important factor in addressing your loved one is the use of open-ended questions. And so what does that mean? Well, instead of asking a question that can be answered yes or no, or okay, fine, or good, is something that is like, well, how might your life be better if you were able to cut back on drinking? And you get the person to actually articulate, how might things be better? Because when somebody says it out loud, it has more power and more weight. And so it's about engaging that. And then when they respond, you ask another question. And then another one, another open-ended question. Responding and listening without judgment, first affirming how somebody might feel the way they do, so they're heard. Again, you're building the scaffolding, you're building a collaborative relationship. And this is kind of what the invitation to change approach is all about for family members. And then once you begin to practice that, now the person who might have a substance problem is feeling heard. They might recognize, okay, I've got somebody else in my corner to help me with doing something extremely difficult. You think about anything you tried to change in your life, and it's just generally not like that. It's usually a lot of back and forth. All you gotta do is think about maybe how you've tried to change your diet and how easy that was. So you want to get somebody to feel like you're listening to them. And then you can help that person. That might be that they can do some of it on their own. They might decide, hey, I can find ways to cut back on my drinking. They might read a variety of different books. There's a lot of different memoirs that have been written from people who've had substance abuse problems. And so I encourage people to kind of read the reviews and see which ones kind of tend to resonate with them. There is a whole lot, and that I'm able to read them all. But knowing that there's hope, knowing that there's people who've gone through similar things as you, can be very helpful. Some people find that kind of help and community in a 12-step fellowship. Other people find it from religious groups or just extended family. It can come from anywhere. The key is to just begin to make some small changes in your life. And so some of those small changes could be, what can I add back into my life that maybe I've missed? Maybe because I've been spending a lot of time thinking about drinking and recovering from drinking, I stopped doing the things I really love. So bring back some of those things. Start off with 5 minutes of whatever it was that you really liked. And then go, all right, that was awesome. I did that for 5 minutes. And every day, it's that regularity. You just keep doing it. And things change. And then you start to feel a little bit better. And then maybe you do it a little bit longer. And then maybe you say, hey, I'm going to go a couple days without drinking. And you start to notice that after you get kind of past a little bit of that acute withdrawal, that things are moving in the right direction. Now, one little caveat that I want to point out is that if you're drinking pretty heavily, it may not be safe to stop cold turkey. Alcohol is one of those drugs, along with benzodiazepines like Valium, Ativan, that if you stop them cold turkey, could potentially be life-threatening. So that's something where it's really important to kind of get an assessment from a substance abuse specialist. So in case that some kind of medical support is if it's required, then that can be given. That can be done in an inpatient residential setting, and in some cases it can be done safely as an outpatient. And then once you get past that point, whether you're making a lifetime commitment to stop drinking, not important. It's only like, hey, let me just try and see what life is like for the next couple days. And then maybe I decide to go a week. And then you just kind of keep seeing, well, how is life better? And it helps to talk to people. It helps to get some guidance and feedback as far as, okay, what kind of things do I need to be on the lookout for? What kind of thinking do I need to be paying attention to? That kind of addictive thoughts that my head might send me? How do I learn to respond to social situations? And these are kinds of questions that can oftentimes best be suited when working one-on-one with an individual. So there's a lot of kind of information that I've just kind of thrown out to you, and I'm gonna stop for a moment because I think that I know people only want to watch like a short video, and so I don't want to go too long. But I do want to just let people know that there's more information on my website. The website is called Minds at Peace. It's mindsatpeace.net, or Minds at Peace is the name of my practice. And I chose that for one really good reason, and that's because usually the people that come see me, their minds are not at peace. And the goal is, of course, to get you there. So there's a lot of free information on my website. There is a free ebook for family members called Empowering Families in Addiction, just like this Facebook group. And there's also videos and blogs for people on the substance abuse side as well as the family member side. And I regularly put more information on the website. If you are interested in more in-depth help, two options. One, I have a limited number of free 15-minute video chats that I offer each month. And then, of course, can also contact me about either one-on-one coaching for family members, and that can then involve family members from all over the country, depending on where they are. We can zoom them in. And if you are in Ohio or Kentucky, happy to help an individual who might have a question about how do I cut back or stop the substance use from harming my life. And so with that, I wish you all a great day, evening. Be good to you, and we'll talk soon.